Welcome to Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay, a shot of true serum for your investment and insurance questions. I'm Josh Knoll, the owner of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jay Stubbs, the Regional Director of First Protective. We are brought to you on the Prime Capital Investment Advisors podcast network. Now, Jay, typically our show centers around money, investments, insurance, things like that, but things have changed a little bit here recently.
You think?
Just a little.
Let's date stamp this one. We are here on March 24th in the studios of Deep Fried Studios in downtown Mobile.
That's right. Well, and so what you and I decided to do was to assemble a series of podcasts with some local business owners and what I would consider influencers in the community that have really had the ability to leverage technology and online platforms to stay current, stay in front of their clients, and stay hopefully in front of potential customers. So our guest today is, you all have heard us mention his name multiple times. His name's Johnny Gwin. He's our producer of Every Dollar Counts. He is also the owner and head fryer at Deep Fried Studios and Media, located here in downtown Mobile, like Jay said. Johnny is somebody that is, in my opinion, one of the most experts when it comes to audio, when it comes to podcasts, when it comes to figuring out platforms. And I think he's going to have some real valuable information for folks that are thinking about using that. So on that note, before we get into that, let's have our friends from Sloth Racer Band kick us off. All right, Jay, Johnny, how y'all doing today?
It's good to be here, Josh. Good to be with you, Johnny. Come in here all the time. Now we have the privilege of speaking with you in person on our show.
I never get to get on the mic, so this is great. This is a treat.
Yeah, we let you out of your hidden back closet.
That's right. I live in the post-production world.
Well, before we dive into your business, we got to do a quick housekeeping for compliance. Jay Stubbs and First Protective are not affiliated with Prime Capital Investment Advisors, nor with Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, and me, Josh Knoll, I am not affiliated with First Protective. Johnny, before we dive into some practical advice that we're going to give folks to hopefully attack this time of crisis, I think first I'd like you to lay out what is Deep Fried.
Deep Fried Studios it started out as a podcast studio, and now I'm a content marketing company, meaning I will make content for you, either as a hobbyist or as a company or as a personal brand. And primarily it's the podcasting world, but we also can do short videos now and blogging and that kind of thing. So I make content for companies. Deep Fried Studios, my goal is to have a podcast content company that feels like an independent record label. It can still be corporate, but it damn sure better be entertaining. And I want to do both. Info-tainment is what we do.
And how many clients do you currently serve?
So we have 8. What I would say is on the network that I have, Deep Fried Studios Network, deepfriedstudios.com. And then I have 3 seasonal. And then I have 2 that kind of pop in when they kind of want to. And it goes from anything from a fishing show to a libertarian podcast called Channeling Atticus to financial like yours, Every Dollar Counts. We have a leadership podcast. We have all types, business. I used to have a podcast that was spiritual with my pastor. We're probably going back to that. Because
going to be needed.
Because it's needed. Because
right.
The church is no longer, she's not meeting face-to-face with people now.
Well, I want to give you, a listener, just a very quick summary of the journey that led us to you and to Deep Fried.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah, Jay and I, back when I went independent with a lot of his support, I asked him at the time, I said, hey, I'm not going to have a mothership to do any of my advertising or my marketing. I got to figure this out on my own. And I think that the most realistic and affordable way for me to do that is to be where people are looking, when they're looking or listening, and how they're looking or listening. So as the time went on, Jay and I started doing a series of videos and things like that. The podcast really kind of formed itself. Mm-hmm. And I think it was really serendipitous, that's my big word of the day, that we met you at the time we did because we had been sold on the fact that we needed to get our voices out. We had something of value to say. We just didn't know exactly how to do it.
We went about a year on Instagram and Facebook with video snippets of just different concepts in the financial planning world, things that led you to clients to you and to you in the community providing advice. That then led to we need to get our voices on the radio, but then you said the radio gets kind of expensive.
Very.
So then that's when we ventured into podcast.
Well, so with that, we were kind of sold when we walked in the door. For someone that is right now figuring out how in the heck am I going to stay connected to my clients? How am I going to provide information? How am I going to build a brand? Not just podcasts specifically, but audio in general. How important do you think it is, and what do you think it does for people?
Well, number one, to me, I'm not a writer. So if I want to be a blogger, and I didn't blog, I think I did 3, and it got so hard for me because I'm so judgmental of how I write. The voice is important because podcasts are so big right now. We're still early in the days of podcasting. There's something like 30 million blogs out there. There's only like 800,000 podcasts out there. So you're still in that kind of first wave of advertising out there. Plus, you can do it so easy. You can do it from a very simple mic on your laptop. This is a little overkill here. We're speaking on $600 microphones in a studio that's padded. I'm using a $1,000 board over there. This is overkill to a degree, but people can start with using their phone. I think Anchor.fm allows you to have a podcast right from your palm of your hand.
And for those listening that think, hey, I like to talk, I'd like to not necessarily hear yourself talk, but some of the things that you've got in your head need to be heard by others. A podcast is a fantastic way. So, Johnny, why do you think podcasting is considered one of the best ways to build your brand?
You can deep dive into something. Like you can find your niche, right? And then I can talk about a niche within a niche. And if you find your people, those 100, 150 people that listen to you, they become your fans. They're not just customers at that point. And that they really buy into you, holy moly, they like you, right? And you've already built the trust factor. I think Pew Edison did some research. And this is like 2017, 2018 stuff. If you subscribe to a show and you listen to more than 6 of them and you have an affinity for the host, if that host asks you to do something, 70% of his audience or her audience will do it. If they say, go check out this website, we really use this product, 70% will go to that website. I've never seen anything like that in engagement and reaction on any platform in advertising since then. But you have to build that affinity and voice, and these shows allow you to do that in a way that's not super expensive.
In the financial services industry, which Josh and I both serve, we call that the loyalty ladder.
Yes.
So it goes from a prospect, somebody who wants to, on my list, to target them to possibly be a customer. Mm-hmm. Customer buys from us 1, maybe 2 times. Clients come back for more. Correct. Clients are there 3, 4, 5 different times of transactions. And then once you get them from client, you want to get them to the advocate level. That advocacy level, which says, I don't know who you're doing your stuff with, or I don't know who you're doing your podcasting with, but you need to call Johnny Gwin at Deep Fried. You're
an expert on something, right? And you have a different view than somebody else does. And you are educating and making better clients that you have, better customers. And then this is a worldwide platform, right? You're not going to work with anybody in Wyoming, yet you're still giving out quality information, right, to these people for asking for nothing.
Yeah.
It's a free platform. Now, at some point, you might say, I have an ebook or I have this or that kind of thing, right? You can monetize it at some point. Most people do not monetize a podcast until, at least what I always say, the 3rd season. You're looking into the maybe 40, 50, 60th episode. But a lot of people, that podcast is a form of advertising. It's a form of marketing. It's a form of branding. And it's also a form of them learning as well. Because they bring on guests, right? Like heroes of theirs from their industry. They get to get on their shows. They build branding within their own industry. If you go see a speaker at a trade show, you will see a lot now that's so-and-so's going to come out and speak about something, and he's the host of the so-and-so podcast.
Yeah.
Probably their name podcast. I think that's equivalent with the person that is the author of a book. I'm not saying the best-selling author, but it has that ability to have that level, right? There's a followership out there. There's an audience out there. There's a expertness they have to what they do. And I can promise you right now, I can't write blogs. I damn sure can't write a book.
Yeah.
There's no way. But I could definitely do a season, 12 episodes, 13 episodes of a podcast because I've done it for all my clients.
Well, and John, you said something that I'll give a counterpoint to. You said we may not pick up clients in, I think you said Ohio or Iowa or something like that.
Right.
Well, Jay knows this from experience from some of our marketing efforts. We've actually picked up clients in other states. Now,
I didn't know you could operate across states. Some industries can't do that.
Depends on your licensing.
Okay,
right?
got you, right.
Yeah, and with me being fee only, my RIA has to be registered in that state for me to have that conversation. So let's make a very good point.
Yeah.
But this goes to places you don't even
it's amazing.
know.
And I always tell people, you'll be very surprised when you're getting emails from Alaska.
Yes.
And you're like, what? Who is this person from Alaska? Listen to what I'm doing. And how people find you is so strange. It goes back to the fundamentals. You build this podcast. You do it on a system like Libsyn or one of those big platforms that I work through. You have to have a good website, right? You have to have SEO. It's all the things that you do to build a brand. You are building a separate product under your brand. I always say your podcast, while working as advertising and marketing, is also a product of yours.
Right.
So you're constantly improving that product all the time.
Very inexpensive platform to get into. So a lot of people that might be thinking, golly, that sounds like a lot of work. Well, you do 80% of the work.
Right.
They just got to come in here, sit down and start talking.
Right.
They need to be prepared, but you got to come in here and start talking. So don't want to throw any numbers out there, but I can just tell you from experience, it is very inexpensive to get into the podcasting arena. If that's something that you want to do, you just need to reach out to Johnny at Deep Fried and get that ball rolling.
The upfront cost, the foundational stuff would be the more pricey stuff, because I have to set up the website. I have to set up, we do a lot of consulting. I don't let you just sit in front of a mic and start. I will coach you through some things. Most people, I will do a pilot with them. So we'll do a show. It's like $400 or $500. Then we can see if you like it or not. I've had some people walk in here, try it, and hate it so much. And they saved a lot of money and time because they didn't do that. Most people, though, come in here, I can't get them out.
That's right.
They love it, man.
What are you trying to say?
It's once people really dig podcasting and really dig into it, they absolutely become obsessive about doing it.
Well, and you said, you mentioned the expense of it, you and Jay both, but I mean, if someone especially in our line of work, not to poo-poo the effectiveness of it, but if they're used to a TV price, if they're used to a print, if they're used to radio, they're going to be shocked at the affordability. And maybe 10 years ago you didn't have quite the reach, but I would position, if you put the time and effort behind the podcast and you have multiple platforms supporting it and a lot of arrows pointing that direction, I honestly think you get way more bang for your buck on exposure.
Well, it's also called owned media and earned media and paid media. Okay. When you do this podcast, I don't own your podcast. I just help you make it. You own it. You can do whatever you want with it.
That's right.
When you rent something from a radio station or rent something from a TV station, once you've paid your flight and it's done, they don't play it ever again. It lives on the internet forever. You can do whatever you want with it. Podcast is also the tip of the spear. When I'm saying content building, one podcast, one 20-minute podcast, you can get blogs out of it. You can get quotes out of it. You can do snippets of audio. You can do snippets of video. It's just the very first thing you can do to now fill your website with all of your information, all of your expertise. Here's the other thing. The world does not need another Ben Franklin quote on Twitter. We don't need any more Ben Franklin quotes. But now you can have quotes from your guests. You can have quotes from yourself. You can blow them up with things coming from your original material now. Now you have owned media. And now there's that thing of building the mountain of content for you to start building for your website and the things you're doing.
Let's be honest. The coronavirus and this whole pandemic that we've got going on has obliterated many things about normal life, one of which is the face-to-face meetings with clients and opportunities. It has not touched the podcast world.
Well, we're sitting a little close right now.
Okay, I've got my hand wipes over here and my sanitizer.
But you're right. You could do the Zoom thing, the Skype thing. Again, reaching out this time to other people in your industry. You could start building your interviews now, right now. And you're not even in the same state. You're just sharing a screen. There's so many things you could fill your times with building that content right now. And again, a lot of people need to talk things out. They're freaking out. They're venting. They're getting ideas. This is the time now to go and talk to those luminaries, talk to those people you look up to. This is the time to make those connections to say, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do this podcast, but at least reach out to them, start having those 10-minute conversations.
Awesome.
Well, I think Ben Franklin said that
Nice.
brands are built in a time of crisis. Well, I want to talk just a little bit about your company and the plans. But before I do that, I do want to wrap up that part of the conversation and the fact that if you're in a business or an industry or an occupation where right now you're feeling really isolated from your peers, from your clients, from your coworkers, from your prospective customers, I don't know about you, Jay, but I have honestly never felt as connected the last couple of weeks. I don't say that braggadociously, but I feel like the fact that we spent almost 2 years laying this foundation has helped us stay in front of everybody and everybody feel like they can still connect to us, right? You agree with that?
100%.
Yep. And I think that for somebody that hasn't done that yet, this is a great opportunity because quite honestly, I know you got to balance if you're trying to homeschool your kids. I'm realistic here. I have 3 young kids. But if you've got some time, man, now's the time to jump on this thing. It's not, if you're in a business where you're a natural talker anyway, leverage that. Use that and get on there. The important thing is the quality of the audio, but past that, it's not expensive to do this stuff.
A $100 microphone, a USB microphone straight into the computer is what I call the gateway drug. And then people go up from there. but it's so much technology out there. There's this called the Zoom H6, which is you guys have used that 4-channel recorder. We put microphones straight in. It's a remote recorder. It's phenomenal. It's a very low barrier to start right now. And like I said, there's a lot of people like, check out Anchor.fm. Anchor.fm lets you record with your earbuds. If you have an iPhone, with your earbuds and your microphone straight into that system, and it loads up straight to your podcast. It's hard to edit on it, but it gets you started. And I say just get started at this point.
Yeah, kind of like we did. We got our feet underneath us when we came to you. So I wanted to ask you, Johnny, what plans do you have for Deep Fried Studios and media?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention. So this time of us not being able to be together, a lot of people have stopped using the studio. But I've always wanted Deep Fried Studios to be a broadcast company. And so I've had this equipment to do broadcasting with Facebook, broadcasting with YouTube. So I've got the time now to jump into that broadcasting. Our very first thing is called Deep Fried Live. I have 20 years of music experience. I'm in the music business. We're starting our very first Deep Fried Live tonight with Eric Erdman, a musician here, and we're going to play an hour programming every Thursday called Deep Fried Live. And then my goal in the next 2 years is to be just like USA Network or AMC was 20 years ago. I want 6 to 8 hours of unique owned media on my own broadcast. So I'm my own radio station and I'm my own TV station while still doing podcasts.
Very cool. So you're on all the social media platforms to find that stuff. Deep Fried Studios is on Facebook. I know you're on Instagram. How do people find out more about Deep Fried Live? Today's the 24th of March. You're going to be doing this and launching this over the next several weeks.
Yep.
They're just going to go search out Deep Fried Live.
DeepFriedStudios.com, DeepFriedStudios.com/live. And then, of course, Deep Fried Studios on Facebook is where we're starting right now. But there's a lot of third-party very powerful companies out there like a Restreamio that allows you to do one source. Like I just am doing one source and it can go to 32 different video platforms with simultaneously. So I really want to grow that way.
Well, I am a fan of a band that performed this yesterday evening, the Red Clay Strays.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved listening to that live broadcast through social media, and I Venmo'd them my tip money, which I thought was very cool.
And the music business is going to change that way. A lot of musicians are going to go, I had 1,500 people listening to me on a Tuesday night. Don't think that there's not going to be setups in studios, set up in rehearsal areas. I'm going to make that available because it is a very powerful weapon.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, listeners, if you haven't picked up on it yet, you are now. We're here to help, and we are attacking this crisis. So if you want to learn more about what we're talking about, reach out to the show. You can call or text us at 251-327-2124. Plus, you can always visit gulfcoastfa.com to hear this episode or any of our other episodes. To learn more about Johnny Gwin at Deep Fried Studios and Media, go to deepfriedstudios.com. And then, of course, Johnny is everywhere. You can just get on your computer and search, and you'll find him. And then lastly, to all you independent and semi-independent advisors and agents out there listening and interested in the value that a Jay Stubbs can bring to your practice, you can find him at jstubbs.com. That's JAYSTUBBS.com. Our fellas never showing the can. I'm so glad Johnny Gwin got to be on this side of the camera and in front of the microphone. Yes, yeah.
Well done, Johnny.
Yeah, you did great, man. And we got to thank him too because he's the one producing this thing. So always doing a great job. You made Jay and I look great. The show has really created a little bit of buzz, especially in our respective industries, and we owe a lot of that to you. Thanks to my co-host Jay Stubbs, and then as always, a huge shout out to all y'all that have joined us on this journey, and to those of you that are joining us now. This has been Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay. Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, PCIA, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA, doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management, PCWM, and Qualified Plan Advisors, QPA. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Prime Capital Advisors. Information presented for educational purposes only, is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. All investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any tax or investment strategies.